The following presentation was recorded live in Los Angeles, California for the 24th Annual Convention of the International Association of Square Dance Callers. This is tape 17, Standard Choreo versus Extended Applications Plus.
We appreciate you being here this morning. I'm a lot less sure of this session this morning now that I have to be in it as I was yesterday when I didn't have to do it yet. But I think all of you went to some of the sessions yesterday and saw some wonderful things, some good approaches, some good things going on. This is standard choreography versus extended applications in the Plus program. And as Mike and I understood it, we're going to try to explore the difference between being different and being difficult. We can take the standard thought and standard applications thought from the manuals and move it around a little bit and try to make it different and interesting, but try to stay out of the realm of difficult. Jerry's got the cordless. All right. I put some thoughts together the other evening when I was thinking much clearer and realizing that I'm not what I used to be. I made them large enough I could find them. Computers are much nicer than typewriters. The purpose of this session is to help callers to learn to understand beforehand which choreography will keep your squares dancing successfully, and the difference between different and difficult. The one main reason squares break down are that dancers have been poorly or inadequately trained. Dancers who have not been taught will have a huge deficit to overcome. They simply are at a loss as to how to solve the puzzles that we give them and that we think are so important to them and not always are that important to the dancer. Upgrading the teaching skills of all of us as callers will result in better trained dancers, who in turn will have more fun and praise us for our efforts by providing us with more dancers. Are there any of you who don't need more dancers? We all need more dancers. We certainly do. The second reason for unsuccessful dancing is choreography that is too difficult. It is simply more than we should expect our dancers on the floor any given night to accomplish. It certainly looked good when we thought of it. It looked good when we pre-planned it. It looked good when we accidentally called the call that led us into it, and now we got to get out of it. But that's only from our side of the microphone, not necessarily from the dancer's side of the microphone. Choreography that is overly difficult can be improved by callers learning to recognize beforehand which choreography the dancers will be successful at dancing, as well as which choreography and from where is going to present problems for the floor and ultimately problems for us. Callers must know beforehand the specific formations and boy-girl arrangements that the dancers are most experienced in dancing. This knowledge is necessary for each call in every program that we call. The standard applications manuals available for mainstream and plus programs are designed as a reference tool for this type of information. They will tell you where you can expect dancers to understand and know the choreography that you want to present to them. Anything beyond what those manuals tell you are standard applications are extended, and you should not reasonably expect everybody on the floor to be able to accomplish that, know that, or have even seen that type of arrangement before. Listed in these manuals are the applications from which a call may be used, and a caller can expect people to know and can expect close to 100% dancer success on the floor. I don't mean that callers should use standard or safe, that's the way you want to think about it, applications for their choreography only. This could possibly create a dance that's somewhat ho-hum and lacks any kind of imagination, and everybody goes home saying, okay, but, no really big deal. Successful callers are the ones who have learned how to identify the different from the difficult. Their choreography reflects this knowledge and guides the dancer through a fun time of interesting dancing. Today's caller has a powerful and useful tool, provided he can study and understand choreographic difficulty, and to recognize the times when their choreography has a potential breakdown point in its makeup. Dancer success depends upon their familiarity and experience. not only with each call that is used, but also from the use of the calls from particular formations and arrangements, which they are expected to dance them. You can take what would be a standard formation and arrangement for a call and take the little center of that feeling out for dancers and place it somewhere else that may be totally foreign for what they expect. But if you leave the comfort zone in there so that it appears to be standard, and we'll get into some of that, dancers can get right through that and it will work out very nicely. It's possible to consider formations and arrangements as standard for a given call despite the fact that the application is not regularly or frequently used. The caller's ability to understand how and where this can occur will greatly enhance the success of your dancers. And our success, folks, depends upon the success of our dancers. If they're successful on the floor and go home feeling good and had a good time, your success has been greatly enhanced. Our session today will endeavor to help you learn how to manage your choreography by the use of standard applications and the standard applications manual. When we work with a PLUS program, the range of standard applications, I believe, and I think Mike does, we talked briefly, is much smaller than it is with mainstream. Much of the variety that can be obtained in PLUS comes from the calls used to set up the PLUS call that is to be used. And those calls, of course, come from the basic and mainstream program. Likewise, much of the difficulty that can come also comes from the same basic and mainstream calls that set up that one little PLUS call that you threw in somewhere. Did you set it up from a standard application setup that people are used to seeing? For instance, a touch a quarter would normally set up a certain call. Did you instead swing through and then do a single hinge? It's the same to us, but it certainly didn't feel the same and appeared the same to the dancers on the floor, and everything works much differently. I encourage you to think about difficult versus difference is a very fine line. As we learn to walk that fine line much better, everything for us becomes much smoother and much more successful for the dancers, and therefore much more successful for you. We appreciate you being here. We hope that we do some things to really help you out. I think Mike's got a few remarks, and then he's going to do some of the opening choreography. We want you to give input anytime that you feel so. Is the remote mic working, Jerry? Good job, Jerry.
Good job, Jerry.
You know how these Hiltons are. They're a little more difficult than my... Yeah, how's that? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, that one plugs in, Jerry. It didn't have a battery crank on the side like the stuff you use.
Don't give me a hard time.
Why not? Okay. We would take a volunteer to run this around the room later if anybody wants to when we get that far, because everything has to go on the mics, guys, so that it goes on the tapes. I'm sure you all got tapes at home where you had this nice blank space with a beautiful answer at the what, you know. Hopefully Mike is going to give you some beautiful answers, and I'll try to fill in the what. Mike Seastrom.
How about a nice hand for Larry Cole from Indiana? As Larry said, I'm Mike Seastrom from Thousand Oaks, California, just about 50 miles up the road. It's nice to be in my own hometown, especially when I look at the weather across the U.S. It's raining and storming, and it's what's supposed to be 70 degrees or 74 degrees out here today. Anyway, I like that. I'd like to ask, how many of you have a standard applications book? One or both? Good. I love it. It's interesting. As I travel around and talk to different callers groups, I'm amazed at how many do not know these books exist and do not know their applications and their use. But it's a long process, and I think we've worked for a number of years on this whole process of standard applications. And a lot of us have misunderstood it for a long time. And when the policy came out, the policy statement from the Board of Governors this year, and the membership got a chance to vote on it, a good deal of our membership misunderstood what we were talking about standard applications. And one of the reasons that I wrote this write-up that I did was I took excerpts from some of the documents that we have that a little bit more closely explain what standard applications are all about. Those of you that got the handout, I hope we had enough, but the first excerpt that I took was from a guideline that was sent to all the panel members doing the panels this year at the CALLERLAB convention. and it was from the executive committee. It was a write-up to us and directions to us what they were expecting from us. And for those of you that don't have it to hand out, and also for the tape, I want to just read this excerpt. It says, in the basic program, there are 200 standard formations in which we can use 49 calls. For mainstream, the number is more like 46 for about 17 calls. Now, when we get to plus, the ratio of that changes. Our standard formation approaches 1 for each call. Now, also, in addition to the formation variety we have, it's possible that we have different boy-girl arrangements or variations that add more variety to our choreography. But as most of you know, if you change the boy-girl arrangements in a coordinate, for instance, you're going to be in deep trouble right away. So plus is a whole different ballgame. It goes on to say, in the plus program, the variety of possibilities listed within the standard choreography are considerably more limited. Few dancers in the U.S. and much of the rest of the world are able to do plus calls successfully from even if the arrangement is changed. And I underlined this last sentence, and it says the practical consequence of this fact is that variety at plus dances is usually provided with basic and mainstream calls. And that's just the bottom line fact for it. You can delve into some areas with plus calls, but it's a whole different program, and you have to really watch it a little bit. Also, the next excerpt that I took was from a CALLERLAB policy statement on standard applications. That was the one that was sent out this year. We got some hate mail, I'd say, Larry. Didn't we get a few letters or so about, particularly from overseas callers and callers that have a little bit broader range because their dancers learn, for instance, the basic program in 1 year and get a chance to dance that program and really know those calls. But this is kind of the excerpt that caught my eye out of that particular document. It says, although CALLERLAB is aware that some of these applications, which are not standard, are a valuable programming tool, callers should pay close attention to dancer success rate. That's the bottom line. We need to pay attention to the success rate. We need to be looking at percentages above 80% of our dancers dancing the dance all the time. Getting close to 100% is terrific, and finding that balance, as most of you know, sometimes to keep your good dancers from yawning and strolling and your other dancers from struggling is sometimes a tough act to do during the evening. It goes on to say that callers are using extended choreographic sequences that are not standard are encouraged to prepare or provide the extra help that the dancers need to reach adequate success rates. Dancer enjoyment of such choreography depends heavily, and I really say it depends heavily on the caller's ability to provide the right mix of challenge and success. Identification and publication of the standard applications effectively replaces the concepts of all-position dancing, APD, and dance by definition, DBD. These terms were never clearly understood, and when you start talking to people about DBD and APD, there's a lot of different interpretations of what these ideas or concepts mean. So it says CALLERLAB suggests that they're no longer needed to identify what might be described as extended choreographic dance applications. The last excerpt that I put down is really the preamble in the standard applications document. Anybody read that preamble? I know it's pretty easy to get that booklet and just start looking at the choreo right away and miss the first page. But it says a little bit of what Larry, and I'll reiterate this just a little bit, that listing only the standard or safe applications for each call should not, however, be interpreted as implying that these are the only variations that callers should call, or that should never call anything from unlisted applications. Then it goes on for a few more sentences, and it says there are times at some dances when the use of some non-standard choreography is decidedly appropriate, just as there are also times when it's not. And successful callers are the ones that have learned how to accurately identify and exploit the times when either of these conditions exists. So it says this means that it's important for today's caller to study and understand the complex nature of choreographic difficulty, and also to be able to recognize the times when their choreography acquires for potential to break their squares down. And I know a lot of you guys can read this, but I wanted to put it on the tape because I think that's important. At least gives the basis for where we're starting. How many of you attended the standard applications dance last night? Some of you. I wish there was more room. I wish we had a bigger hall. It just seemed to be pretty narrow in there. But the interesting thing about that is that some of us just went straight up and had choreography that was just as vanilla as could be. Some of us tried to push the envelope just a little bit and have been criticized a little bit throughout the evening and this morning at breakfast about maybe trying to bend things a little bit. But we were trying to show that different callers can have different approaches to this whole concept of standard applications. And also the other thing that I think that was pretty obvious at this dance was there was a tremendous variety in the programming and the music we used. We used different songs and different music. So it was to point out also that the variety in our dances is not strictly from our choreography, that the music we use is critical, the rhythms that we use are critical, the different labels. I mean, when you open up your record case and you look at all the different labels you've got in that case, it's like having different live bands at your dance. You put on this live band and you put on that live band, and that kind of variety shouldn't be underestimated when you program your dance. On the flip side of the handout, I talk about some tools for keeping squares dancing, and most of you use these tools as it is. But of course, one of the best success enhancers that we have is using directional calling or using helper words when we call. And I think a lot of us use this in different forms, and I talked about this a little bit on that handout. First of all, there's a lot of us that use the definitions when we call a call. We'll say, for instance, on a peel the top, we'll say gals go left 3/4 and the boys move up, and it just gives them enough that if some of the dancers haven't got that in their brain right away, at least it clicks together and they do that. We might do the same thing with a spin chain that gears or a coordinate when we're dancing, particularly with new dancers, is we'll get them circulating and the same sexes trade and the boys move up and that kind of thing. So some of us will use the definition when we call. Other times we'll use lead phrases like take a little peek and trade the wave, or girls lead in Dixie style to an ocean wave. And those things are stuff that all of us do all the time. Another thing is identifying the in formation when we're going to end up a call or where we're going to end up. Many of us, when we call the call chase right, for instance, we'll say chase right, and when we're not going to follow it where the boys run, we've got to warn the dancers. So we use a word like hands up, you got to wave. You know, who's the centers of that wave? Centers trade. So you're helping those dancers out with just little words by identifying the ending formation to get them to realize that what the call that comes right after, they might have to look or think a little bit about. The other thing is cueing to specific dancers. Now, very often when I'm doing a call, particularly if I'm at a dance and my wife's not sure of a particular formation, particularly when we're doing a dance, like an advanced dance, and we're calling motivate, I have to call that cue that to my wife. She never could dance motivate and still can't, and so when she's out there, I cue her. Girls turn left 3/4, you're on the outside, turn half, and so I cue right to her.
I'm going to mention this.
Please do. She'll it's on tape. You're right, it is on tape. She'll be the first to admit she still can't motivate. She has lots of other talents, though. I want you to know. Okay.
You're going to get motivated.
I think I'm digging in a little deeper than I meant to. That's right. She looked like Betty Crocker. Boy, it's too early to get in this deep in the day. You know? Anyway, cue into specific dancers. Getting back to things like teacup chain. A lot of times we'll cue to the ladies. You know, head ladies center do a teacup chain, side ladies right. You turn them to the right. Side girls to the center with your left. And we're talking to the gals as we're doing that particular call. Sometimes on spin the top, you know, you turn half and the girls star and the boys move up. If dancers are just checked out, and sometimes you see it on their faces, they're just checked out, and you try to help them through with these helper words. So most of us are using directional calling, and most of us are using helper words. Pre-calling. Pre-calling, I think, is an underused directional tool that callers use. A lot of times on a promenade, don't slow down. How many of you say the heads wheel around and you're looking at everybody else looking at each other saying, who's the heads here, you know? Where all you simply have to do when you're calling, you know, promenade and don't slow down, keep walking, who's the heads? And all of a sudden you got them thinking, boy, who's the heads? And now you say heads wheel around. And bam, the success rate of the whole thing goes up a big deal. So pre-calling is a real help. If you're doing a plus dance, for instance, and you haven't called crossfire all night long, before you put down the needle on the patter call, you can say, we haven't called crossfire all night long, let's do that. And so all of a sudden you got them thinking, the dancers have pulled out crossfire out of their long-term memory and dropped it into their short-term memory where, oh yeah, I remember that, it's kind of like, you know, and then you can help them through a little bit further. So pre-calling, I think, is a real help. Sometimes when you haven't said anything before you put the patter record down and they're promenading around, you say, hey gang, let's get you home, we'll do some fan the top. As they're promenading home, and get them home, and boom, all of a sudden you're ready to go. So pre-calling, I think, is something that more of us could use. And particularly when we're calling with newer dancers, it's a great help to be able to give them just that extra clue to ensure their success. Also, if you're moving into extended applications, and we'll look at that more here, when we're using familiar formations and arrangements for at least half of our dancers. In other words, half the dancers on the floor are doing that call as exactly as they would in a standard application. And it ensures that those half of dancers are going to help to engineer the other half of dancers through that call. I'm sure most of you are using that. The other thing is can't miss completions. When you're when you're doing a particular call from a different application and you've been exploring that application, if you do the call and you're bending that envelope just a little bit more, if they're walking right into a right and left grand, even if they have a hard time getting there, all of a sudden they're looking for their partner for a right and left grand. So if you trade the wave to a right and left grand, or trade the wave to an Alaman left, something like that, or follow your neighbor, it's a lefty to a left Alaman, your dancers are going to have an easier time of getting through that with a can't miss completion. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to square up a little bit later on. Also, I think the other thing that's awful nice to do is to talk to your dancers, compliment them as you're promenading around. Go, God, you guys are hot. You know, talk to them and encourage them along. That goes a long way for them to start thinking. There's some callers that really have used a choreographic tool for a long time that I really admire. And I wrote that choreographic thing up on the top. To me, it's called choreographic expansion. And it's basically a method of calling a movement or a group of movements where you use a logical sequence and you vary the arrangements and the formations to increase the variety or increase the complexity in your choreography, but you do it in a logical sequence that ensures dancer success. Now, many of us have seen callers over the years use terms like, let's dig a little deeper, and they promenade them home, and they'll vary that arrangement or bend that formation just a little bit. And the dancers are into that, and they're enjoying it. So some dancers enjoy the complexity of the choreography, and if you have a group like that, you can get them involved. Other callers, Bobby Beyer, for instance, will say, page 1, and he'll start them out with something real simple, and then they get back home, out page 2, and he'll start them with something else. And by the time at page 4 or 5, these people are doing choreography that they would never have been able to accomplish if he had just called that page 5 flat out. But he led them through a logical sequence of choreography and to ensure their success. And that's the key. They're having a good time and you're ensuring the success. Now, the other thing about standard applications is that we're trying to get away from the complexity in choreography as being the only tool to ensure the variety in our programming. It's fun, and there are times when it is really appropriate, but there are times when we need to back off and use the other tools that are available to us in programming. As I said earlier, you've got your music, you've got your rhythms, you've got your speed of your dance somewhat, stepping up a little bit. For instance, last night we were calling pretty much the same tempo as we were moving through, and Jerry got up and he called and he just turned it up a little bit and cranked it up. Well, it didn't make it impossible to dance, but it added a whole new part to the dance, a whole bit of variety that the dancers felt, and didn't change the choreographic difficulty at all. So there's times when you can step it up a little bit. Or I did a 6/8 call last night. It's nice to have a call like that in your briefcase that gives the dancers a little bit different variety and a little bit different enjoyment while not actually using your choreography to do the same thing. So if we could get a square up here, maybe get 8 dancers, 4 couples. Come on, you guys. Anybody that wants to stand up to keep from falling asleep? Right? Hey, that's right. It is. It's very easy to fall asleep. Very nice. All right. I think the Purple Hearts are, well, you have to make it there should be a little bit of blood on a Purple Heart, I think. Listen, do an Alaman left to an Alaman dar. You go right and left and you make a star. Men back in and, alright, you're going to use your left hand, shoot the star all the way around, meet your partner, turn them by the right. The men swing in, make a wrong way dar, back them on in a left hand star and you back them on in, alright? Now you're going to use your right gang, alright? All 8 spin the top, turn right, girls star, boys move up on the outside, spin it again, turn your partner by the right. Men's star, the girls move up, meet your partner, go right and left grand. Alright, now this is a standard application for all 8 spin the top from a wrong way there. How many call it routinely from a wrong way there? How many routinely call a wrong way there? Okay? The point I'm making is the point that Larry made earlier, that a lot of your variety in programming with plus calls come from your mainstream applications or your basic applications and how you set them up. A plus floor doing a wrong way there, boy, it's really a puzzlement, but that's another way you can add your variety, and once again, you're using the basic program to do that. Let's have the heads past the ocean, extend, swing through, boy run, bend the line and do a right and left through. Slide through and roll to face the girl across from you. All right, roll is another call. It's kind of an interesting call, but most of our variety of roll comes from the mainstream applications that we're using when we do a roll. All right, touch a quarter and roll. Do a right and left through. Turn the gal. Girls lead Dixie style to an ocean wave. Well, is there plus calls that you can use the standard applications? The standard application document says anything that's going to leave your dancers facing When they're done with a roll is a standard application. But say trade the wave. Take a peek, trade the wave, and roll. Now the girls are facing. Boys, you're right behind them. Well, we don't have everybody facing here, so is this a standard application? How many would say this was standard? Pretty standard. You're right. It isn't standard. And yet it's pretty easy to get your dancers through this, particularly if they've already been doing trade the wave ahead of time and you give them the right helper words. You can have almost 100% floor success. Girls pass through, touch a quarter, scoot back. Go, gals. Boys run around the girls. Couple circulate. Oh, go guys. Bend the line. Pass the ocean. Girls trade. Girls run. Boys hinge. We got a diamond. Alrighty. Let's flip the diamond. Alright. The girls trade. Girls run. Boys hinge. Flip the diamond and roll to face that same girl. Look her in the eyeball, you guys. Girls are back to back in the middle. That's definitely not a standard application. And once again, we're using plus calls to extend that application. First of all, you should have been calling flip the diamond before time, so they're used to flipping in. The girls are used to flipping in. But this is not hard to get your dancers through if you use the right bit of formation or the right bit of helper words to get them through there. Touch a quarter. Boys trade in the middle. Boys run. Girls hinge. Do a diamond circulate. All right, and we're going to cut it. Cut that diamond and roll. Girls are facing. Guys, you're right behind the gals again. Once again, this is not a standard application of... Yes, Jerry. Want to come up and use the microphone? Let's grab the mic.
You said that the flip the diamond and roll was not standard.
According to the standard application document, it really isn't. When you talk about roll.
Tell me why it isn't that.
Well, because the document says itself that anything that leaves dancers facing, and as I interpreted the document, it was all dancers facing. Now, my feeling here is this is a gray area. In my opinion, I think there is much of this that is standard.
Call it again.
All right, girls pass through, touch a quarter, boy trade, boy run, girl hinge. All right, there's flow is not great here, but diamond circulate. You're talking about flip the diamond. Okay, flip the diamond and roll to face the same girl. Girls back to back.
Standard ending. Everybody's facing.
All right, you're right. Everybody's facing you, right? I'll be corrected there. Yeah, I find that most of this that I'm talking about here is, to me, is fairly standard as long as you're calling this stuff through. Although the standard applications document is it leaves a little bit of room for variation in your boy-girl arrangements. Okay. The other interesting thing that was pointed out to me last night is fold. When you look at the standard applications document for mainstream, fold is really only standard if it's done from the ocean waves, and if you have your ins from your ocean waves, fold. Let's touch a quarter. All right? Girls fold behind the boys. Now what can you do from here in the mainstream program? Boys turn back. Yeah. What else can you do? You can peel off. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, everybody extend. But anyway, all right. Yeah, extend. Yeah. And extend the mainstream is from a quarter tag, right? There's not much that you can do on the mainstream program if that's the only standard application for fold. And that's why I think that maybe we ought to relook at fold on the standard applications document and think, well, boys turn back. Star through. Pass through. The ins fold. According to the standard applications document, that is not standard. But to me, boy, that's a pretty standard. Yeah. I mean, you can set it up a little differently so it's a little more successful, but same, touch a quarter. Boys run around the girls. Do right and left through. Roll that girl a half sachet. Pass through. The ins fold in front of the centers. Now, there's nothing more standard than that. You get them right there, and you can do an, if they're in their corner, the right setup, you do an alamand or right and left through. But from actually looking through that document, I realized that fold is maybe a call that we need to look through a little bit. So I don't want you to think, and this is the way I look at it anyway, and is that these standard applications are not cast in stone. The challenge to you is to use choreography and use the tools that are available to you to make your dancers succeed. And I think that's what some of the mail that we got, Larry, from other dancers and other callers, I should say, when we passed that document or passed it around for endorsement, was misunderstanding the concept of standard applications, in my view. Do a right and left through. Turn the gal, veer to the left. Now how about, let's do it, we're going to do an AC-doocy. Who's the centers? Who's the ends? AC-doocy, but the girls roll. Boys face in, girls pass through, star through the boy. Leaving some of the dancers roll. Now you'd admit that that's not really standard, right? But it's not real hard to do. And if you provide the right kind of direction, it's easy to get the dancers to dance it successfully, and that's the key. Bend the line. Do a right and left through. Pass the ocean. Once again, do an AC-doocy, and the centers roll, or the girls roll. Boys face in, the girls pass through. Touch a quarter. Boys trade. Boys run. Do a Ferris wheel. All right, centers swing through double, and the outside smile and stretch. Good. That's for flow. All right. Ping pong circulate. The outsides roll. Centers do a linear cycle. All right. Got these sachet lines. Move up to the middle and back. So you could do stuff that's on the plus program that pushes the envelope a little bit, but everybody's successful. Touch a quarter. Boys run around the girls. Do a right and left through the outside too. Star through. Load the boat. But the outsides roll to face each other on the outside there. Centers, you're working with each other. Chase right. Outsides touch a quarter. Well, that's not real hard to do that, and most of the time the dancers succeed in doing that kind of thing, but it isn't standard applications, and yet as long as you're providing some variety with them, or some direction, they're going to succeed. Boys run right. Centers go right and left through, and veer to the left. Bend the line. I don't think you guys are home, but we're... That's right. Bruce Jackson said he only has to remember that when he's calling. And I wasn't paying attention. So there's a lot of things you can do with calls that are not standard, but at the same time are successful. Larry, you want to talk to him a little bit? Let's switch. You guys, let's give these guys a nice hand, by the way. You don't mind standing up? Will you stay there for a second? Stay squared. I think Larry wants to talk to you.
Uh-oh. Nice hand for Mike Seastrom. Okay, I want to explore a little bit the way I use the standard applications for my working tool. That's what I said before, that if I know where I can reasonably expect you folks to know and understand the calls from, then I can pre-plan what I can do as far as making things different without making them difficult where none of us succeed. Let's take a little bit of a look at Chase Wright. Chase Wright says that the formation from standard applications is outface lines. The arrangement for same is a zero, which to us is a standard line, boy on the left, girl on the right of the couples. The comments say that 1/2 outface lines are becoming more common because they're more often used, and we can more often now assume that more dancers on the floor know them, and that would be from what we understand to be a half sashayed line. I'm also not going to worry about where home is for you. That's not, we don't want to spend a lot of time with resolution and things, so I may have you square up heads to sides opposite or anything so we can move. Let's have the head step in the center, turn face the corner, tell her she looks wonderful. Write that one down. Star through, please. Pass through. And we know this to be a standard application place to start Chase right from out facing normal lines. Chase right. Turn to face the person beside you, your partner. Close enough. Touch 1/4. Walk and dodge. Same again with a little bit different setup. Chase right. Scoot back. Now the girls run around the boys. Pass through. We've accomplished our 1/2 out facing lines for your half sashayed. The manual tells me, and my knowledge of the manual tells me, that this is a becoming more standard situation. It's then my judgment, any given night on the floor, whether this is going to be successful for the dancers or make me look foolish. Based on the fact that Ben's dancing, I have some real concern. I have more concern now. Chase right, please. Good job, Ben. Walk and dodge. Wheel and deal. I know, we're not here to do the oohs and the ahs. We're here to do the other things, as Mr. Story reminded us all yesterday. Pass through. We can get into some different things. Let's have a star through. And a pass through and a wheel and deal because I forgot where I was going. Those in the center star through and back away, we're going to consider this our squared set because I said I'm not going to waste the time putting you back and forth, okay? Let's have these present heads step in and face the corner. And I have found that for the people that I get to work with in the area that I get to travel, that the following difference for chase right can work as different but not difficult. In your area, that might not be true, and that's where your judgment factor comes in again. I think as a caller, there's two things that you have to constantly work on to accomplish. Number one is your judgment, and number two, to remember that all these folks came to the dance to have fun, and if they don't have fun, they won't come the next time. We could do either, and I'll pick one in a minute, either a pass-through or a square through 3/4 to get to what I want to see. Let's do the pass-through. And I have found that I can use a chase right from here with pretty good success rate with the people that I normally see in the area that I get to work and travel, which can be as much as 300 miles from home any given time, okay? Would I come out here somewhere and stick this on the floor and immediately say chase right and feel real warm and fuzzy? Probably not, because I don't know what's going to happen. That's your judgment and that's your knowledge. Chase right, please. All the boys run around the girl. The center's face in and back away. From a static square again, I know that I'm going to get into difficult with my experience if I do this. Present heads pass through and chase right. These folks did it wonderfully. If I do it at home, they go around the outside. It's a natural feeling for the dancers. In the area that I get to work, they don't see that center set up. They think cloverleaf, they think separate, they think everything in the world, and they're chasing right around the outside, which is really kind of neat if you can get the others to squeeze in out of the way quick enough. And if that should happen, you simply smile and let them think that that's what you had in mind, and when they call you next, you raise the price. If they don't call you the next time, you're back to judgment again. Have those outfacing center boys run right. Same people step in, face the corner, please. Touch 1/4. And as Mike indicated, if you help as you go along so that people are successful, everybody looks better. So I would say at the end of that touch 1/4, check your new ocean wave based on the fact that I want these center folks to do something rather than something they may more be accomplished or more be used to. Centers trade, please. Same centers run. The couple circulate. Bend the line. Pass through. Now we have same sex together in the lines, and in the area again that I work, this is different, but it doesn't become difficult. In your area, it may well be difficult. But I can get away with this as being different. Is it standard? Of course it isn't standard. That's what we're here to think about, though. What can we do with standard to extend it without making it difficult and making all of us look bad? At home it works well. Chase right, please. Center trade. Split circulate. The guys run. Good job. They handled that well. Let's pass through with a wheel and deal. The center square through 3. And I found that if I get into this kind of setup and ask only the centers to chase right, that also is different for me, not difficult. They will accomplish that pretty well. Only the centers chase right. Depending on what you're doing with the rest of your program, you can get into all kinds of things from here. You can have the center spread and the outside step in. The new center square through 3 while the ends circulate. The same centers chase right. The note of that, don't do that here. I've just improved my judgment amazingly. Bend the line. Touch 1/4. Split circulate. Very good. Boys run around the girl. Those in the center star through, back away. We have a new square. You guys do well at adapting to new squares.
Larry, can I just put in a
Please.
thing? And Randy and I were thinking about the same thing, but at the same time, that one formation you were in with the boy, boy, girl, girl lines, and you were doing a chase right. The reason why that the dancers have more success there is once again because half the dancers are doing the chase right from the position that they normally would do it in the standard way. And that's one of the reasons why you can kind of get into that a little bit and have a little bit more success. Jerry?
When Randy came up and told you that, I thought that he'd seen something that I did at the same time. I didn't see that, but I saw. Can you put him in that position again?
Probably not. What was it? I've already gone to page 2. I have no knowledge of page 1. Head, start through, and spread, please. Pass through. How about that?
Okay. Now, I would say that what Randy said is really legit, except for that I would not start it here for more success, because the center couples are normal people. And the first thing that would...
Jerry bends in the center.
Standard and normal couples is what I was trying to say. And so that the tendency at this point here for dancers who do not do other position would be the center 4 people would be chasing each other. And so that I would turn them, everybody do a U-turn back. Somebody turned the wrong way, Ben. Pass through. Now, this would even be higher success rate because now you know that there's nobody that is going to try to chase boy chasing a girl, which is our very standard application. From here, everybody's looking for something different, and still half of them are doing their normal position chase, okay?
You see what he's saying? Very much what we're trying to get everybody to see. You're pre-planning, which I wish I'd done that. Okay, you see the point, and a good point. Other than that, where was I? Bend the line. Twice. Start through. Center slide through and back away. New square. Guys catch on fast. Let's have the side step in and turn the face present corner. Touch 1/4. And again, I'd probably help because I want to do something with the center as you have a new wave, center straight. Centers run. New center 4, folks. Walk and dodge. The same 4. Chase right. And as you know, that was a very normal standard feeling for just those 4 people picked up in the center, even though it was from the 3-in-1 lines. It works well because it's not difficult. It is different, but it is very common for their feeling, okay? Oh. Had the center too active by the prior call. They were all primed up and ready to do something. You know, and you know, your timing as you deliver the calls is going to make a big difference. I really thought we'd have turntables and work music and, but since I didn't bring any records, it's just as well. Bend the line. All right. Boy, if you could just get that started, watch. Touch 1/4. Split circulate. Ladies run. Face in. Pass through with the wheel and deal. Depending on, you know, how far you want to go, you can start working all of the same sex in the center. Zoom. It's not recommended to start with the guys. Touch 1/4, girls. Walk and dodge. I get more comfortable if I don't follow a walk and dodge with a chase right sometimes. Let's have the girls do a partner train. Girls pass through and face in. Touch 1/4. Box circulate. Out facing lady run. Now. 2. And the ladies chase right. Their success at that point rather than followed with the walk and dodge. Okay? Ladies turn facing their sky. Say hi. Start 2. Couple circulate. Bend along. Work, you know, as much as you can to not make things difficult. Try to make them different. Try to make them interesting. I probably get more comments than anything else at the end of the dance. Well, at least you're different. I used to think that was good. I'm not really sure anymore. I get some other comments, but we're not bringing those up. Let's let you folks take a rest. If we could, Mike, you want another square? You want to work just a bit with something else? Okay. If you guys would like to take a rest, we'll try to get another square. Give these folks a nice hand. Yeah, if we could get another square, we'll let Mike do a couple things and see how we're going.
Actually, go ahead. Yeah, let's make another square.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
Time.
It's a good idea to get up and stretch anyway. Get up and move around. First of all, I want to make a correction earlier, and this is for the tape mainly, but earlier I had made the statement that standard applications for fold was from an ocean wave with the ends only doing the fold, and evidently that has been changed, and there has been an addition or a revision to the standard applications. So those of you that have the old printing like I do, we probably ought to go and get the new printing of the standard applications. But evidently that has been modified somewhat. And like I say, we're still in early workings of the standard applications, and it will take a long time, I think, to get rid of the terms APD and DBD and to get people talking about standard applications and extended applications. So we're in the first start of, or the beginnings of this. And I think it's going to take a while for those terms to be accepted. As I think these booklets will be changed and altered. There's a tremendous amount of work that's gone into these documents, as well as a new choreographic guidelines document that has just been completed by the Choreographic Applications Committee and will be out soon. A phenomenal document. And these are not only for the experienced callers, but primarily for newer callers. It gives them some tools that when they start using these calls, what can I expect when I call these calls from these formations? What can I expect as far as success rate? And we're trying to ensure that they have that success. The other thing that's important with the standard applications documents are that they give a new caller tools, and even a veteran caller, tools when you're teaching these calls. What should I be exposing my dancers to? What are the dancers around the country dancing these calls normally from? And I think that's what we're trying to do, is to help everybody out, help make things more successful, help eliminate some of the guesswork, and ensure that the dancers have fun and have some success. Jerry talked about the next progression when we did Chase Right. And Jerry, I'd like to have you come back up, and we're talking about choreographic expansion here. We're talking about how to expand a call, or one or two calls or so that the dancers are assured of success. And so, Jerry, we're talking about Chase Right. And why don't you go ahead and take them on through, because obviously you thought about this. Take them through from a standard point. Well, it's off the top of your head. And go ahead.
Take them through.
Well, take them through choreographically. If you were working a standard Chase Right, where might you proceed next with Chase Right? If you were going to either stay with standard but do something different, or if you were going to, and actually anybody that's got an idea. Let's choose everybody.
I know what you mean. Okay. Heads pass through. As a couple, promenade a quarter. All right. Sides only. Chase right. Heads step into the middle.
Sides only. Chase right. Heads step into the middle.
Heads pass the ocean and sides hinge. You can talk them through that. I didn't have to help these people. I think
part of the problem here is these guys have not been up dancing, whereas the last square was doing Chase Right.
They were a little cold, these ones.
These guys were real cold. That first call in the middle was...
I can tell that you realize the chairman's out there.
Yeah, he was real cold on that one.
Boys run around a girl. Center couples trade and bend the line. Square through three. The others bend the line. Pass through. Centers pass through. Just the leaders, outsides, do a big Chase Right. Centers Chase Right only, in the middle. Boys run around a girl. Again, this is a good square. Didn't even have to help them. Yeah, right. Centers slide through. Pass through. Take a step ahead. You four Chase Right. The others pass the ocean.
Around big Chase Right.
Big Chase Right. Yeah, big one.
Yeah.
All right. Centers swing through. The others trade. All boys run to the right. We are in plus, aren't we? Thank you. Centers tag the line. Lady go left, boy go right, the others chase right. Stay in the middle. Yes. I didn't finish the command because we had an accident over there. At this point, I would be praying that we could get out of this. Center boys run, the others are facing, slide through, centers pass through. Pass through. Thank you. Good. Square through 3. Trade by. Alaman left. Come back. Promenader home.
That's pretty good off the cuff. Although I'm sure most of you would agree that there are maybe some helper words that you could stick in there and like Jerry or in
Daniel,
the center.
would you run the mic around?
let's look at it differently. All right, let's look at it. Yeah, Les.
Would you call that different or difficult or both?
I'd call it different and difficult. Difficult and different. I think if you're working with your floor and you have them dancing and you've maybe done a big chase right, or you maybe have done one couple chase while the other couple do something else, that wouldn't be difficult, but it would be different. But just off the top of his head and like that, I think that's difficult to me. Heads come in the center and turn to face your corner. Star through. Pass through, chase right. All right. Single hinge. Ladies trade. Swing through. Boy run right. Bend the line. Okay, say we've been calling standard chase right all night long. Piece of cake. These guys got it. No problem. Where would anybody? Where would you proceed next? A left chase. Okay. All right. Do a right and a left through. Roll the honey with a half sachet. No? Pass through. You chase the boys? Wait. Okay, we're talking about where's the next step we take. So we've had some suggestions about chase left, chase right. Okay. Let's put it on the mic. Laurel? On the mic. Okay.
If you're going to do a chase left, go ahead and start it from a right and left through, turn all the way around so that they're facing out. The fellas already have that left flow, so they're going to be ready when you call that chase left to do that outside turn.
I like it. First, let's look at right here. We're half sachet lines facing out. All right, think left, you guys. Think left. Chase right. Chase left. Okay, boys. Dirty caller. It's the dirty caller in me coming out. Boys run left around the girl.
Mike.
Charlie?
Isn't that left chase?
Left chase. Yeah,
not chase left.
Chase left.
Because
left
they're
chase.
halfway going to the right before you get the word left out.
You're right. Yeah. Pass through and do a U-turn back. Oh yeah. Yeah, I would pre-cue that. To the left chase. Think left, you guys. Chase left. Do a right and left through with a full turnaround. Full turnaround, you're facing out. Think left, chase left. Girls chase the guys. Left chase.
Just a second, Mark.
There is, there has been a comment. There is some overflow there. You're definitely right. Yes.
You don't necessarily have to say chase left. I mean, left chase. Can't you just say think left and say chase left?
I think, personally, when you pre-cued your dancers to think left, as long as you don't say chase right afterwards, I think. But I personally would think that's enough of a cue.
Right, so that's why I would say chase left. I never say chase.
How many of you say left chase?
I never say left chase.
How many say chase left? How many never call it?
How many of you honestly believe that you know before you get to the dance which of those helper situations are going to work until you see that floor work that night? You can't decide an hour before which pre-cue you're going to use for something like that until you see those dancers operate that night and determine judgment which cue they need.
But you really should be thinking about it ahead of time. If you're going to expand and do some choreographic expansion, you really need to stop and think, well, what mistakes are they going to make? What can I anticipate those mistakes before I call them? It makes a big, big difference. Girls run left around the boys. All right? past the ocean. You know, all of us call a singing call figure where we have the head square through 4 and do a swing through, and the girls fold and peel the top and go right and left through and pass through and chase right in the corner swing and that kind of thing. Do a swing through. Spin the top. Move up and go right and left through. Turn the gal and pass through and chase right and pretend that's your corner and swing her and promenade her home. All right? Take her home, wherever you want to go. That's great. And even in a singing call, you can extend your choreographic difficulty a little bit. If I have the head square through, 4 hands around, instead of putting in the do-sa-do for timing, swing through. Girls fold, peel the top, go right and left through, then roll a half sachet. Then pass through, chase right, chase the boys, catch the boys, jump into his arms, swing it, promenade. You can, and they can't miss it. They can't miss it. They may be wandering out, but as long as you can use something that's a can't miss completion, you can extend it just a little bit farther and get them through something like that. But what we're trying to talk about here is basically expanding the choreography but ensuring their success, and that's the key. I think as long as you can get them succeeding with something like that, you're using your choreography in the proper sequences that ensures their success. Let's look at Dixie Grand, okay? How many use Dixie Grand from, well, Jerry, I'm sure you use Dixie Grand from, but from a circle. All right, if you've been calling a long time, that's the only way we used to use Dixie Grand was from a circle. 4 ladies chain, straight across. Roll that girl a half sachet. Circle to the left. Circle to the right. Stop at home. I had the 4 ladies chain across, everybody roll away, right? 4 ladies chain back. It's good stuff, right? Square your sets. Let's start over like this. 4 ladies chain across. Just the heads roll a half sachet this time. Alright? Just the heads roll away. Everybody circle to the left. Boy, boy, girl, girl. Now you've got your Dixie Grand step. Circle to the right, the other way back. Drop hand, single file. Everybody think about a Dixie Grand. All the men turn back. Start a Dixie Grand. Give a right, then a left, then a right. Do an out of hand left. Come back and promenade. So a proper setup into it. But yeah, a lot of us used to do that figure, and it's still just as valuable today, and everybody can do it, but it's a memorized piece of choreography. There was some comments yesterday in the past chairman's committee meeting. We were talking about the fact that many of us have gotten away from using memorized bits of choreography or memorized sequences of choreography, and that we should, if you don't have them in your toolbox, you ought to be using them, and I'm sure most of you do have little bits and pieces, but write them down, because those of you that have been calling a while realize that you probably used to call this sequence, and you forgot it, fell out of your head someplace, and you don't use it, and yet it's just as valuable today as it used to be. So use those memorized sequences like that, and add the variety to a call in that way. All right? Okay. Head square through, 4 hands around. Pass through, trade by, and the outsides roll to face. Now I want the outsides to box the net. Same outside, start a Dixie Grand. Give a right, then a left, then a right, do an Alamana left. Come back and go right and left grand. So you got what I'd call a box 1-4 get out, a little bit different thing from a, say whoa when you're there. You got a little bit different thing. Once again, a memorized piece of choreography, but adds a little bit different, but you're keeping success and you're doing something a little bit different from what you normally do. Head star through. Zoom. New center, start a Dixie Grand, but on the third hand, meet partner and do a wrong way, right and left grand. Wrong way around. So right and left. Keep on moving around the set. Meet your partner and slide through, and you ought to be home right there. The point I'm trying to make here is a lot of times you use a piece of choreography that we get stuck in a niche. And you can use different variation of this thing, Dixie Grand, and it's a memorized sort of thing and something you see on the floor, but you can use bits and pieces that add variety, and it makes a big difference. Randy?
Just a comment, Mike, on Dixie Grand. I find out, like, that little sequence, those helping words, sometimes will almost confuse the dancers, because you said on the third hand, meet your partner, start a wrong way grand. For some of the dancers, they've only gone 2 hands. And so they're counting the third hand, and all of a sudden, it's not their partner.
Right.
So sometimes I find out it's better not even to say that. Just say Dixie Grand, meet partner, and do a wrong way grand.
You're right.
Sometimes when you're trying to help the dancers, you're really hindering some of them.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point, because sometimes the words you use can get in the way, and or use too many words and they're starting to listen. for what? Is that another call he's calling, or what else? You're right, absolutely.
Same thing, Mike. I didn't realize I was doing it till finally I had dancers come up to me at Plus Lessons, and I was saying, "Those who can start." Dixie Grant.
Right. Yeah.
But it was confusing them. Those who can start.
Absolutely.
It was confusing them, and I thought I was helping them.
I think the point's well taken. Look at your floor with your helping words and watch. Are you really helping? Or some of them still having problems. What can you do to help those people? So sometimes it's a little bit of a trial and error, and oftentimes in lessons that's where you pick that up. You're right. Heads past the ocean. Ping pong circulate. Extend. Do a linear cycle. Square through 4 hands around. And when you're done, you're either going to be looking in or looking out. Everybody start a Dixie Grand. Give a right, and a left, and a right, and left Alaman. Come on back and say, whoa. So there's variety in all of the calls, and sometimes, like I was saying, they're memorized bits and sequences, or they're things that you keep upstairs or keep written down, but add the variety in that way too. And thanks for those 2 points, Randy and Jerry. Good points about direction. Larry?
Yeah, the head step in, face the corner. Swing through. The gentleman run and the ladies hinge. Diamonds, of course. The manual says that the formation for diamonds that are standard application are twin right hand or left hand diamonds. All kinds of arrangements. Let's do a diamond circulate. Flip the diamond. Trade the wave. The gentleman run. And the ladies hinge, and we have left hand diamonds. Diamond circulate. So we would assume that we can standard applications flip the left hand diamond. Untrue. The manual says standard applications flip the diamond are twin right hand diamonds, not left hand diamonds. I find that to be interesting, that if you can have standard twin right hand or left hand diamonds, that a left hand diamond flip the diamond is not standard. You've gone out of the standard applications in order to do that. Let's have the gentleman hinge, pick up a nice lady, couple circulate, bend the line, pass through with a wheel and deal. Those in the center swing do. Those gentlemen run, and the ladies hinge. And I find that in the area that I work in, I can set up a diamond that's different to lots and lots of people, to put one in the center like this. And it's very different to a lot of the folks at home, but it doesn't really become difficult because you've still got a nice right-handed diamond and they can handle it. Do a diamond circulate, please. That also lets me find somewhere to expand on some of the other calls that I use. For instance, those at the heads through the diamond pass through. The same people through the diamond chase right. Assuming the diamond stands in one place. It gives me something else to do with chase right that really was a good feel for those people because it wasn't very far away from what a standard applications chase right feels like. It wasn't difficult at all, but it was a little bit different and allowed me something else to play with there. Okay? In the diamond, do a diamond circulate, the others do a hinge. All of the ladies trade. The wave a sixth, do a grand swing through. We produced a gentleman diamond in the center. We can probably get away with flipping that diamond pretty easily. Okay? It's different. It's not really difficult. It isn't terribly standard. Okay? Gentlemen flip the diamond. All the ladies hinge. The center two boys trade. The other six circulate around the football setup. All the boys run around the girl. Those in the center bend the line and back away. You get back to a square again. To me, it gives me something to play with some calls in the center without becoming difficult whatsoever. And it lets some people see something that they don't see very often. And they go home feeling good because they were very successful at something that was a little bit different. I don't care if they remember it next time or if they really totally understood what happened. If they had fun with it, and it was something that I could present easily to them and make them feel good about what they did and allow me some variation. We're getting close to the end of our time. Has anybody got anything they'd like to say or ask that Michael Seastrom would be delighted to answer? Or just comments? Jerry?
Diamonds brings a comment that I'd like to make. There's two reasons why diamonds are hard. Do all of you know why diamonds are hard? Even standard? But I mean, we should
Tell
know.
us, Jerry.
No, we should know why they're hard.
Yes, exactly.
We need to know why they're hard. The first reason, and the most obvious, is that they've got three choices once you teach them. They can circulate, they can flip, or they can cut. But the most obvious one that we miss is it's the first time we've got 4 people working by themselves. They have nobody to help them because they're not holding on to anybody. And that's the hardest thing for the new plus dancers to do, because they're used to having somebody. We teach them with somebody to be with them. Even if the other person isn't moving, they're with them, they're touching them, they can shove them. Out here, there's nobody. There's nobody. And until we realize that, if you realize that, it makes it easier to teach it. Because then you're aware that those people out there are going to have a hard time that are not being touched.
Anytime you leave dancers out working alone, because we preach to them that there's somebody there all the time, like Jerry says, to help and to touch to. And anytime that you just pick them up and throw all of them in the pool and say, swim, it's tough for them. It's the no hand situation. There's nobody to help. There's nobody to hinge with. You have to find your own position. You get the end of the call executed, but you're not really sure that that's where you belong. Anybody else? Mike?
Well, you said there were 2 reasons why diamonds are hard, and you gave one reason. What? There were?
Yeah, there were 2 reasons. Do you want one more time again? First of all,
Well, the first is there's 3 variations, 3 choices when you hear diamond in your word. That's the first one, because you've got 3 choices. So that makes it hard, because the people stop listening by habit. The second one is you're not touching.
I think it's important, of course, when you're teaching it, they're either touching hands, they're either in a ocean wave or as a center diamond, and if they're not, they're pointing. I make sure that they got a finger down there, that they're doing something. I tell them that's because of the way I dance it, because it confuses me, and they all like that, and it helps them, and we're walking around like this at class, and it's okay. You make a joke out of it. Make it fun. That's the main thing. The other point that I want to bring up, just in perspective, we've looked at a lot of different variations.
Mike, before you leave that thought, and it's something that I've always felt very strongly about. If you make it fun, watch your people when you're teaching, workshopping, or dancing. If you're dancing, they can accomplish much more if they're having fun. If you're workshopping, they can improve much more if they're having fun. If you're teaching them for the first time, they can grow by leaps and bounds if they're having fun. They went through drudgery probably all day long before they came out to you to have a good time and relax. They can accomplish so much more if they're having fun and if you're having fun.
And they'll be back.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's so true. That's the first thing, is make it fun. Whether you're teaching or whether you're just calling to dance, it should be fun. The other thing, the one comment that I wanted to make, and we thank you guys for squaring our square. The other thing that's important to realize is we've looked at a lot of different variety in choreography here, but you don't want to spend the whole dance challenging them and pushing the envelope. The good majority of your dance should be just straight up having fun. Put the wind in their face and let them enjoy the dancing. Let them enjoy the feel of moving to music, because that's the real joy in square dancing. And it's critical that you look at all the aspects of programming, as we were talking about earlier, and use a little diddly here and there to keep them on their toes a little bit, and let them enjoy that part of the dance too. But at the same time, use everything else that's available to you to make sure that they're having a good time and having fun.
Tom Delano, Marion, Ohio. I know Jerry moved a little fast a while ago on some of the Chase Wright stuff, but if you get a chance to go back and listen to tape or review what you wrote down, you'll find out that he normalized very quickly some of the things that he was doing. He didn't leave them hanging out there. So we need to keep that in mind, that as you move through these extended applications, that you normalize as fast as possible.
Absolutely, Tom. Keep those sequences short. Anybody else have something else to add? Their perspective, their look at, yes.
Neil Canaday, Grassmass, Oregon. He was talking about leaving them, they're out there by themselves. Just having them point attaches them to the square, or gives them something to follow. If they're pointing with the right hand, they tend to want to go right. Like in Follow Your Neighbor, giving them some imaginary, to work with, rather than casting 3/4 by themselves. Tell them you're holding on to Marilyn Monroe, cast 3/4 with her.
That's a good point. I don't know, when you teach follow your neighbor and spread, and it was at a CALLERLAB convention a long time ago, Jack Lazary was given a little diddle, and he was talking about teaching follow your neighbor and spread. And the fact that the in-facers have somebody when you're teaching them to hook onto and cast 3/4, but your out-facers don't. And he said, have your out-facers imagine, just as the previous gentleman, his comment was, have them imagine then that they're turning 3/4 with Marilyn Monroe on the outside there, you know. And all of a sudden it puts somebody out there, and it gives them the body flow and the movement as the outfacer that, yeah, there is actually somebody out there. If I'm calling a class, and we just got done teaching that with one of my groups, I jumped out there and danced with the first square, and I danced with the outfacing lady because she was having problems with it. And I was using my portable mic, and I was able to just jump right down there and cast 3/4 with her and send her right back into her square. But it just emphasizes that very thing. So when you're teaching it, give them those cues, those keys.
It's a great point on one other helper. I use that, and I like the idea. Remember, even the outfacers are casting with nobody. Everybody's casting with somebody or nobody. When you're done, you've got to have somebody or nobody still in that right arm.
He could be his own grandpa, you know.
But before I even put him into the parallel lines, I put him into a quarter tag situation, and I have the center swing through, and so that the boy's looking at a boy, girl's looking at a girl, and I start my follow your neighbor there with everybody casting with somebody real to start with before I take him out here. And then everybody doesn't let go, we're back into left-handed ocean waves. Then I'll take him out there, and then the nobody, somebody makes more sense.
No. Jerry, it made perfect sense, but we learn more if we have fun, and even though it was at your expense.
No. Another comment that we were talking about over here is a lot of times we'll get to playing with something like that, and that's working good, and then we overuse it. And another thing is you got to be real careful and not overuse it when you get into your extended choreography. Use your normal setups, go into your extended choreography, but don't stay there too long because the dancers then start getting bored with, oh, here we go with that call again, or here we go with that setup again, you know. So, don't overuse these calls when you get into them also.
Folks, everything we do is judgment. From the very first time that we ask people to circle left, we are using judgment. Running our mic today has been Dana Shermer, the mainstream chairman. Appreciate him coming out and helping.
This is Neil again. For the ladies, if that imaginary person or nobody or somebody, and then nobody happens to be Tom Selleck, it works better.
Yeah, I really couldn't see Laurel getting real cranked on with turning with Marilyn Monroe a minute ago. We've had, I hope that you all have gotten something out of this today, and I appreciate all of you that put something into it. That's what makes these sessions go, when you folks come in and put something into it and enjoy yourselves and learn at the same time. We've had very good comments from all of you. We've had real good help from Randy Doherty and Gary Justin. Let's give them a nice hand for coming out.
Thank you, guys.
And helping out. And these same guys, just like Mike or any of the guys that you see around, if you have questions and you see these folks in the hallway, they will honestly be happy to stop and talk to you and share their expertise with you. That's what all of these people are here for, and hopefully that's what everybody else came for. Don't be afraid to stop them and say, I'm really confused about such and such. The wealth of knowledge that comes to this convention from all of you should support and be a gain for all of us. So talk to each other and enjoy yourselves. Give my buddy Mike Seastrom a nice hand. It's break time.
Very cool. Very nice. Thank you, Larry. Hope you enjoyed this morning's session and enjoy the coffee break.